This program, of course, is presented by Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the most widely read, widely sold, and respected wrestling magazine in the world today.
Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Podcast, episode number 6. I'm PWI senior writer Al Castle, joined again by fellow senior writer Dan Murphy. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. How are you doing this morning, Al?
I've been better, a little under the weather, but I will tough this one out. And we've got a great one this week. Following the interview last week with Alberto Del Rio, we got another big newsmaker this week. Dan, why don't you tell them a bit about who you talked to earlier in the week?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to Charlotte, the Nature Boy Ric Flair's daughter, the reigning NXT Women's Champion. Spoke to her a little bit about receiving the award from the PWI readers, the Rookie of the Year award, the Achievement Award that was voted by our readers in the year-end issue that's on newsstands now. So we spoke a little bit about the award. She was pretty stunned that she had received it, which is kind of impressive because she received a full 50% of the vote. You know, half of all ballots went to her, and the rest was divided among all the rest of the rookie crop that's out there. So she won in a virtual landslide, and she was pretty stunned by the result and very heartened by it, and had a really good chat with her.
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but to me, she's sort of the old school Rookie of the Year, and with wrestling changed so much in the last few years, it's going to be few and far between where you get a rookie like Charlotte, who has a name right out of the gate, being Ric Flair's daughter, performed so strong right out of the gate in a national promotion, essentially. It was made for her. And I still think that it's one of the cooler wrestling stories in the last few years that, having had two sons that both tried their hands in pro wrestling, it's Ric Flair's daughter who seems in line to kind of carry the torch.
Right. And of course, it's going to be hard for her to ever achieve what her father did or come anywhere near it. Nobody's going to be the next Ric Flair. But she's definitely, with a year under her belt now, she's got a great start. She's going to have a great career, I think. And I think that she's definitely poised to be the next big thing in the Divas division in the coming year, I'd imagine.
Yes, and speaking of the next big thing, the Royal Rumble was this past week. Brock Lesnar retained the title, and we now have a more clear picture of what's going on at WrestleMania 31, or maybe not. I mean, there's still plenty of time to make changes, and there's certainly a lot of fans who would say the changes are in order. So we're going to be talking more about that. Also, Dan mentioned it, the Year in Wrestling issue is it's either on newsstands now or it will be real soon, and also be delivered to subscribers pretty soon. You can download it right now at pwi-online.com. While you're there, pick up a subscription. You can get 6 issues for less than $21. That's half off the newsstand cover price, just $3.50 an issue. Subscribe to 12 issues for an even deeper discount at $39. Like I said, if you go with a digital issue, you can get 6 issues for just $14.99. That's $2.50 an issue, and we say it here every week, but we're still going strong. We're still the longest lasting. I feel like a Ric Flair promo now. We've been around now for 36 years, still the most respected pro wrestling magazine in publication, and we continue to do important, good work, and you should definitely check us out. You can follow us on social media at official PWI. Find us on Facebook. And I haven't plugged it the last couple of weeks because I've forgotten. But please contact us at PWI Podcast at Outlook.com to tell us what you think about the podcast so far. We're now 6 weeks into this thing. Please spread the word. I think the Alberto interview last week where he made some news maybe got us some new listeners. Hopefully Charlotte does this week. And we've got a few more in the works. So anyway, Dan, let's talk about the Royal Rumble.
Have you canceled subscription to the WWE Network yet?
Well, I know Stu's been wanting us to have some healthy debates here, and I think this might be a place where we do it. First, tell me, the news, obviously, there was a lot of news coming out of the Rumble, but the big one was, it was a rerun of 2014 with Roman Reigns playing the role of Batista. And in this case, I think the fans rejected the outcome even more strong than they did last year.
Yeah.
Part of that was obviously being in Philadelphia. What was your take? I mean, are you as upset as those Philly fans are? Do you see this as, again, WWE being tone deaf to what its audience wants?
I think the answer no and then yes. No, I'm not upset by the result. Disappointed slightly, but I thought going in that Roman Reigns was the favorite. I mean, we discussed it on the show. Everybody kind of realized it. The way it played out was kind of, and this is the tone deaf part, you have Daniel Bryan come out, I think, at number 9. He gets eliminated midway through the match in front of a Philly audience that really wanted to cheer him. And then for WWE to be surprised that they kind of crapped on the rest of the match, it makes no sense. I mean, there were a lot of other ways that could have been done. Why even bring Bryan back for the Royal Rumble? It just seems like they are dead set on, hey, it's Roman Reigns versus Lesnar. Roman Reigns is going to win. Roman Reigns is going to be your next champion until he drops it to John Cena at some point, and that's it. That's 2015 for you. WWE's got it all planned out, and regardless of whether you like it or you don't, that's what they're going to kind of force feed us. At least that's the feeling, and I think what's really a shame is that if you remember, when Rocky Maivia, the young Rocky Maivia, came out and was getting the Die Rocky Die chants, and it was the exact same thing. He was being pushed too soon. People just didn't feel like they'd warmed up to him yet, and they were loud and vocal in opposing him. And WWE kind of wisely scaled back, turned him heel for a little bit, put him with the Nation of Domination, and eventually, once he got his confidence, he was able to become from Rocky Maivia to The Rock and became the biggest star of arguably of all time.
Until Sunday night.
Exactly, right.
Where he lost all of that.
And on one side, I'd say, well, you can't compare everybody to The Rock, just like you can't compare Charlotte to Ric Flair. You can't compare Roman to The Rock. But WWE literally did that. They brought The Rock out into the ring. They forced that comparison. And for them to be making the same mistake over and over, and especially in an audience in Philly, everybody knows about Philly fans, to do that was just short-sighted and pretty arrogant, really.
Yeah, and it got worse. I know you saw the post-show where they did the promo backstage, and The Rock just totally big-footed Roman Reigns. It was embarrassing how that whole thing played out. So I agree with a lot of what you said. And the biggest thing I agree with you is that they shouldn't have been caught off guard. A few weeks ago, you and I were talking, the day after, I think, Daniel Bryan announced that he was in the Rumble, we were talking about the fact that this was going to happen. If they were both in the Rumble and Bryan is eliminated and Reigns wins, those fans are going to go nuts. And it seems like everybody saw that coming, but WWE, that's where you feel like they're tone deaf. And I also really agree that being the case, I'm not sure why they brought Bryan back. I don't know why they couldn't have waited until the week after the Rumble. Was it so important to bring him back for the Rumble just to have him eliminated? What had Daniel Bryan done from when he came back about, it's been a month or so ago until now, that needed to happen, that it couldn't have waited until now to the big WrestleMania build. And then, until then, fans didn't have much of an expectation of Bryan coming back at all. There was real talk that he wouldn't come back at all. So he wouldn't have been on the minds that much of fans, certainly of being in the Rumble and winning. And then Philly is the other one of, again, on one hand, you think these places are booked months ahead of time. How would they know? By that reasoning, do you never play Philly or New York or Chicago again? Obviously not. But doing what they were going to do here and going with an unproven guy like Reigns that has a little bit of headwinds in front of him, was that the best place to do it? It's really the least of the mistakes they made. But where I part with a lot of the fans is in thinking that this was a rerun of last year. And it wasn't. There's a huge difference between them deciding to go with a 45, 46-year-old Batista, who was already seen as the old guard at that point, who didn't look to be in great shape and maybe not terribly motivated. When Bryan was as hot as he was last year, and he was hotter last year than he even is now, that's a big difference than going with whatever he is, 29-year-old Roman Reigns, who really does have a huge upside. WWE is not wrong for seeing what they see in Roman Reigns. And the other thing is, we criticize WWE so much, and rightfully so, for never having that long game, for just kind of booking on the whim. And with Roman Reigns, it's pretty clear that they decided at least a year ago, if not more, that this was going to be their guy. I think when they had The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar end the streak last year at WrestleMania, I think that they already knew that they were going in this direction, and that was part of the motivation to get Roman Reigns really over at the following WrestleMania. So I applaud them on all that. I mean, I think that, and in that sense, I don't think they necessarily should change course. The problem is in the execution. I mean, they've done just about everything wrong with him since they decided they were going to, strap that proverbial jet rocket on his back. They've just botched it every step in the way. And, Reigns hasn't done himself too many favors, but I really put this more on WWE than I do on him, and I was watching the live SmackDown last night when somebody had a sign near ringside that said "Suffering Succotash, Reigns won."
Yeah, exactly.
And that becomes the Blue Tista of 2015. It's just, what were they thinking? And they've also been dealt some bad breaks. The hernia surgery took him out for months at a time, where he really needs to be around and really get rolling. But I think everything that's gone wrong with Roman Reigns is an indictment on WWE's strategy of creating a star.
Well, it's arrogance. I really think it's arrogance on someone's behalf. I mean, you had the Slammy Awards, for whatever worth the Slammies have. But, okay, he's your superstar of the year. It's like, come on. I mean, he didn't hold the title. He missed a quarter of the year with injury. There's no storyline way to make that work. Or it's just a matter of saying, hey, this is the guy you're supposed to cheer for now. He's going to WrestleMania, and that's it. It's, and just because they say it happened doesn't mean it's so. Just because they say, oh, yeah, he's the top guy now, doesn't mean that the fans have to kind of believe that or get on board with it. I like Roman Reigns. Again, I think what you said, the execution has been the big detriment to all of this, and it can still be saved. I mean, I think that what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see, this week on Raw, basically having Daniel Bryan come out, because I think at the Rumble, one of the other things that really happened was we really saw Brock Lesnar become a fan favorite. Yeah. That turn was really kind of completed in that match. He did what Daniel Bryan did last year at WrestleMania, where he got off the stretcher, came back in a match and won. I'd love to see Bryan come out and say, hey, I know you're focused on Roman Reigns. I know he won the Rumble. I know he's got a title shot, but that belt you're wearing, I never lost that. I had to give that up. It was an injury. Heyman tries to kind of talk him out like, we don't care about you, but really appealing to Lesnar, saying, listen, you showed that you're a fighting champion. You showed that fighting spirit. I have done that too, and I'm just issuing a challenge for Fastlane right now, me versus you. That way you have that match. It's a fresh match, Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar. That's an intriguing match because of their styles. Regardless of who wins, however you want to approach that, you can then go into WrestleMania, where the fans have seen Daniel Bryan get their title shot. If you want to take the belt off Lesnar, have Bryan in there, so now Bryan against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Or you have Lesnar just continue his streak of dominance, finally beat Daniel Bryan, but at least Bryan got that title shot, that match, and then go into WrestleMania with that. I think that would take a load off of Roman Reigns' shoulders, because it would finally settle the whole Daniel Bryan situation and allow him to really concentrate on what he's got to do at Mania.
Yeah, that would really solve a lot of issues, and maybe that's the direction they go. There's a few complications, the least of which is, can you get Brock to wrestle at Fastlane? I don't know what the contract is. He wrestles so infrequently. I don't know that he is up for a match in February. And then the other risk of that is, if you go that route and Brock does beat Bryan at Fastlane, there's a rejection of Roman Reigns if they just go right back to Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, get even worse. So I don't know. It's really tough. And the other part of all this is, I don't think that Philly crowd was representative of the average WWE audience, right? So I don't think that there's this huge national backlash against Roman Reigns. I was at the last WWE house show at the Izod Center, an hour away from Philly, the night before the Rumble, and Reigns co-headlined, and I happened to be in the lobby getting something for my kid when Reigns was making his entrance from the crowd, and he was doing it from the gate right next to ours. So we saw the whole crowd converge around him in the lobby, and my kid was able to see. And, the fans were really gravitating toward him, and seeing him, that close in that kind of environment, you really see this guy is a star. I mean, he absolutely does have it. And with that house show audience being so different than the kind of audience you'll have for a Philly TV taping or pay-per-view, lots of kids, lots of moms and parents, that kind of thing. He got a big pop. It wasn't the biggest. John Cena still gets the biggest pop at house shows, but again, that even speaks to how different house show audiences are to pay-per-view audiences. I mean, it's all to say that, again, I don't think it's beyond saving with Roman Reigns right now, and I almost worry that WWE will overcompensate right now and throw away a plan that might have worked, that might have been worth executing, because they get nervous, they worry about a repeat of WrestleMania 30. I don't know what the answer is. I agree that if they just kind of put their head down and push through and cover their ears and all that stuff, they could do a lot more harm than good for Roman Reigns, because if they make the call to just maybe buy a little time, whatever the plan was now, you put it off a year, it's not the end of the world. It could be the difference between whether Roman Reigns becomes a huge star a year from now or never becomes one at all.
Or he becomes Sid Vicious, basically,
yes,
or Sid Justice.
Right.
That guy who seemed to be the guy, and the timing just didn't work, and he just didn't have that charisma, and it never quite got to that level. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And maybe, what is in order, and if it is executed right, could be the best of all solutions, is that double turn. I mean, if, maybe Reigns just makes a better heel. Brock Lesnar, I think, has already shown that he'd make a tremendous babyface, and maybe you give that match a little extra oomph if that's the direction they go with. And the other thing, what we've talked about is that there are other really good options for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. It's not if you pull him out of that match, he ends up in some, mid-card throwaway match. Right now, it doesn't seem like they've got anything that important for his two other former Shield mates. So I think a three-way Shield match, as we've talked about, would still get a lot of interest at WrestleMania. So, but now the talk is Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
that'd be outrageous. I know what the intent is there. Have the two underdogs, but that just smells like, second on the show, 9-minute spot fest with no real consequences. Yep. The next night on Raw, they're back to their same positions on the card. That would not work for fans.
No, it wouldn't. It's really, again, they're kind of booking from such a limited perspective, and they just really want to force their agenda rather than seeing what they can do. For whatever reason, all right, maybe Daniel Bryan isn't the guy you want to be the face of the company. He's not a traditional, cover boy, or he's a small guy. He's not, he's got the huge beard and whatever. Hardcore fans, and not hardcore in the hit everyone over the head with the steel chair, but the passionate, smart fans love him. But that constitutes 5 to 10, maybe 20% of your audience. You've still got this entire other audience. If you don't want Daniel Bryan at the top, that's fine. But give him that opportunity to compete for it before kind of pulling the rug out from under him. At least let the fans think that, all right, we can back this guy, and he'll have his title match. Win or lose, he'll go back down on the card. It doesn't have to necessarily be at WrestleMania, but to kind of bring him back after a career-threatening injury, having never lost the championship before, goes into the Rumble. He lost to Bray Wyatt on TV a couple weeks ago, too.
Yeah.
Loses the Rumble. He's eliminated in 8-10 minutes or so. And then a go-nowhere match against Dolph Ziggler. That's terrible.
It's not just that, as you said, that they don't see him as necessarily the top guy, and that's fine. There's reasons why they'd have some issues. it's this kind of like outright flippancy that they, I think fans really get a sense that they want to stick it to him every opportunity they get. And as far as that small number of fans, the 5%, whatever it is, the smart fans, it's true that they don't necessarily represent that large a portion of the audience, but they're tastemakers, right? So I think the average fan watches the Royal Rumble, and maybe they were into Roman Reigns, and they see him get booed out of the building. I think what happens sometimes is people start kind of questioning themselves, like, should I not like this guy?
Right.
And then it ends up gaining momentum. So
and the other thing is, too, not just from a work rate or the smart mark audience, but from a pure storyline perspective, if you really think about Daniel Bryan, he was the star of last year. The whole Yes movement was a focal point. He won the championship, was forced to relinquish that title by the Authority. The Authority targeted Brie, leading the whole Bella's feud. They went after him. They going back a year from when he beat John Cena at SummerSlam, and then immediately took the pedigree from Triple H and Randy Orton, took the title. This goes back a year and a half now, the storyline Daniel Bryan versus the Authority. And now here we are. He faced a career-threatening injury. He comes back. From a storyline perspective, you need to tie that up. Like, the babyface has finally got to get that win over the Authority. You can't finally just say, oh, well, that's run its course, and now he's down here. That's the top story of the past 18 months. Right. And without giving that a satisfying, fulfilling conclusion, that's one of the reasons the fans are rebelling the way that they are.
Right. Well, the other part of this is, Triple H said we're recording this on a Friday. I'm not sure when it'll go up. So it could be, if this goes up after Monday, a lot of this is old news, and there's already a more clear picture of what the plan is. But there are, 2-3 months, there still is 2-3 months before WrestleMania. We've got Fastlane coming up. A lot can change between now and then. If they feel like they absolutely need to call an audible, maybe they do. I don't know what they do. I wouldn't be thrilled about just ending up making another three-way, just inserting Daniel Bryan into the
cop-out.
Yeah. And especially if, again, the plan is to make it a three-way and have Roman Reigns win. I think that takes the wind out of his first title win, and you'd be setting up, whatever it is, 70,000 fans to nearly riot there. So that should not be the route they go. I do think there's still a way to make Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns work. It could be a double turn. It could be all kinds of things. But, the best way to go about it is just do a better job of building Roman Reigns between now and WrestleMania. It's crunch time. I mean, they'd have to do in about 2 months what they should have been doing for the last year. But, yeah, it's time to